Hello everyone, Jared here with Twin Lakes. I hope everybody's having a blessed day. It's been a minute since I've been on here, and I apologize for that. You know, with the holidays and family and everything, just gets busy, and my schedule was not. It was just getting crazy, and I apologize for that. And so I want to stay with the study of Mark. I really am excited about this, but you know, sometimes you know in life that things just happen. It just gets busy, and I wasn't able to do it. And so I apologize for that. So we're going to get after it. And here we go. So as we have a little recall, since we were here last, is Jesus just got baptized. He was baptized by John the Baptist. He was fulfilling prophecy. Things had to get done. And so, as you can imagine, as with anyone, when you make that commitment, decide to follow Jesus, you're on this mountaintop, right? To follow and do what God's will. I mean, you are stoked, you're pumped up, and you're on the mountaintop. Now, you're going to go face opposition. And it's just crazy to look at this. Now, Mark has Jesus. He has this theme of Jesus of being a servant. We need to keep that in mind. And we're going to be in verses 12 and 13 today. So if you have your Bibles, turn to Mark chapter 1, verse 12 and 13, and you can follow along. And we're just going to go through here, and like with any time that I do a study, just want to take our time and really go through there. That's what I like to do. I like to take my time, go through there, look at what the text, what the Word is saying, and put pieces together, and just, if you had like a dry erase board and you're drawing up a play for football, it would just be all over the place. It'd just be crazy. And that's what I like to do. So I want to look at verse 12 and 13. So here we go. At once the Spirit sent him out into the wilderness. Verse 13. Sorry. And he was in the wilderness 40 days being tempted by Satan. He was with the wild animals, and angels attended him. So, as you know, that Matthew really goes into a lot of detail when he presents Jesus going into the desert. I mean, in Matthew chapter 4, verse 1 through 11, he gets into detail. He carries on the conversation between Jesus and Satan, and addresses that whole scenario. And you got to look at this scenario. And I want to just touch this for a brief moment. You look at God and Satan, and you're looking at two adversaries here. I'm going to go head to head. And I look at this, and this is bigger than anything. Be like a sporting event today. It'd be like this right here is bigger than Muhammad Ali and George Foreman and the Rumble in the Jungle. I mean, this is huge right here. Two adversaries are going to go toe to toe, and only one will prevail. And we know who's going to win this. But this right here is everything coming in to play. And what I mean by that is, here is Satan. He has waited for this so long to tempt the Son of God. He is going to tempt Jesus. He's coming after him. He's going to hold nothing back. He's still going to use the same tricks, a bag of stuff that he used with Eve in the garden. He's good at what he does. He's done it since the garden. He knows Scripture. He knows all this stuff. And it's going to be a rumble. But one thing you look at is Mark always presents Jesus as a servant. The servant of God. He's bringing him in here. And so Mark uses the word sent. Matthew and Luke use led. But that's what coincides with Mark keeping this as Jesus as this servant theme all throughout the Gospel of Mark. He just has it as a servant thing. And so the Spirit is sending him. It sent him. And you got to ask your question, why would this happen? You know, because you have the wilderness. That's going to, if you go back and you know the history and stuff with the Israelites, they spent 40 years in the desert, and they have always struggled with disobedience and rebellion against God. And so there's Jesus is going to go into this situation. It's going to be for 40 days to resemble the 40 years that they went rumbling around, lost, to face that. And Mark goes into detail that there's beasts there. It's going to be tough. It's going to be hot. It's going to be. Imagine going into this situation. You just had your high, and you're going to be at your lowest right now. You're on top of the mountain. Spirit's going to send you, because we have to do this. You're going to be at your all-time low, 40 days with no food. He went through fasting, with no water even. And to really look at the fasting of this scenario here, Jesus is going to really show us what fasting is. It's going to be your total dependence on God, nothing else. And that just blows my mind, how that occurred, And Jesus is going into this environment to really show that he is the Messiah, that he is the Son of God. His identity is a deity. He is the Son of God, without question. He is God in the flesh. And he has to do this because he's got to prove of who he is to match what is said about him and everything else. But he's got to go there and face the one thing that has tore man away from God, and that's sin. Because if he was never to prove is that we know that God cannot be in the presence of sin whatsoever. He just can't tolerate. He will never sin. He is sovereign. He is holy. He is righteous. And so Jesus is going in there to this situation to face the old adversary, and he's going to shut him down. He is going to shut him down with every corner that Satan tries to head Jesus off. I mean, he was so vulnerable in his human form, 40 days and nights, and with no food or water. I could not imagine that. I could barely go 30 minutes without wanting to drink water or anything in that realm of things. And he goes 40 days. And I'm just really impressed by this. I mean, just sending Jesus into there. By him going into the desert and facing temptation, he's really going to show his identity here. I mean, he demonstrates his humanity to confront the enemy. He's going to fulfill a prophecy. And this is going to prepare him for ministry too. But what we can really get out of this is what's going to teach us about temptation and handling spiritual warfare. I mean, we get it from him. It's been there, done that, and Jesus is going to show us. He's actually going to show us what the Israelites never could do. And it's just amazing. And one of the things that I see is that why he is going to do this, and I'm just throwing this in there to add some more evidence, is that Jesus needs to show the world what the Israelites could never do. To show, like, hey, this is what God wanted it to be like. I mean, I know I'm kind of getting, but I want to read Isaiah 11, chapter 11, verse 1. A shoot will come up from the stump of Jesse, from his roots a branch will bear fruit. So if you go back and thinking about how the Israelites could not perform or carry out anything while they were in this time of the desert. Any temptation, it always turned into sin, without a question of a doubt. No different than today. We struggle just as much with disobedience and rebellion against God as they did. But Jesus is going to show everyone what it was supposed to be like. And so he is going to really show and do what the Israelites never could do. And that's what Jesus is going to do. He's going to produce fruit. He's going to avoid the temptation. He's going to never sin. And he is going to shun away from Satan. And he just nails it. I mean, just nails it. And if one thing that really gets here, that stands out, is that, and it's just, he goes in there, he does this, and you're always looking for some information that kind of goes, you have your normal information, like when you research something, here is the standard characteristics of A, B, C, and D, yada, 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 and all this information right here. But sometimes you need to find something that's kind of out of the ordinary, something that doesn't just really make a lot of sense. And to me, and it involves this last little bit here. People always wondered if Jesus was who he said he was, and this in verse 13 here, just the last little bit, really to me would catch my attention if I was researching something for information. I want to know everything about it. So just using this as an example is to prove that Jesus is the Messiah. I mean, we can go all through the genealogies, we can go through all the research, we can go through all these things, we can go through the I am statements, we could go through all that. And that's enough. It is. But sometimes you got to have just something out of the ordinary. And I've read over this a few times, and it didn't catch my attention at first until I started reading it again, and I started asking myself, well, what of these two verses, what would it stand out to really prove the identity of Jesus, of he was the Messiah and who he said he is, that's God in the flesh, and to really get that mindset that I needed to, if I had to prove this, and it wouldn't be the normal typical stuff. I needed something that could go along and back up some other information. And it was this right here in verse 13. I'm going to get to it. I apologize. I'm kind of squirreling here. But I really love getting in here and to the Word, and it gets me fired up, and I want to get excited. But it was this last little bit here. He's been tempted. And so this last little bit of verse 13, he was with the wild animals, and angels attended him. So he makes it through this. Here comes the angels to take care of him. I mean, I could just imagine they're waiting for any moment for Jesus to say the word, and they're going to come. I mean, it's like today the president having the United States military at his standby, waiting for the word, and they're going to go. And so when I see this, the angels attended him. And the question that really got to my mind was, we know that this is going to be the start of Jesus' ministry, and he had to prove that there's going to be trials and tribulations, there's going to be temptation, and you're going to have an encounter. You're not always going to be peachy king. You're not going to not have temptation. And if you're not facing any of those things, my question would be, then what are you really doing? But showing us what to do. Look at when you start ministry and you start evangelizing and everything, whatever the case may be, that the ministry that you're starting is, that you're going to face. You're going to face these obstacles and this old counterpart. Satan is always going to come after you. So, but and I really, that this opposition that you're going to face, but when the angels came and tended him, that really drove me into that. That the angels was probably with Jesus the whole time. Mark does not insinuate that the angels did not leave him once they came and attended him. So it gets me thinking, and I'm just thinking here, and I'm using this to prove a point here in just a second. I'm kind of squirreling here. I'm sorry, I apologize. But the angels knew that they were going to be with him for a while, but they attended him. So they were attending to Jesus. The angels only attended to God. Now, if you look at the angels, they were messengers sent in the Old Testament. You look at where Jesus was, the angels come to Mary and tell them that she's going to conceive a child. Angels came to Joseph in a dream to warn him about things. But the angels only work for God. So the angels were serving God. They don't go and serve without God's orders. So if they don't have the order from God, they don't do it. They don't intervene. They don't do nothing. So if they came and took care of Jesus, that lets you know that he is who he says he is, because the angels are taking care of the Son of God. And I hope I'm trying to clarify this up. The angels took care of him because he was who he said he was. But one thing about Mark, what he does here too, he doesn't let us know that the temptation ever left Jesus, like the other two Gospels, that Satan be gone from him and Satan left. Mark does not include that. He says, he leaves it that the temptation is always going to be around Jesus, because he never ever indicates that the angels are ever going to leave Jesus. We don't know that they didn't leave, and I want to assume that they were probably with Jesus every step of the way, because of who he is. I cannot see a reason why they wouldn't. And they would just wait for him to give the word, the command, and they would have been coming in. It would have been that way even while he was on the cross. If he would have said just one thing, they would have sent legions upon legion to come down and took care of this. But so that's, you know, the angels play a big part in this, to my point, if I was going to research something, because the angels only serve God. That's all they serve, is no one else. And so, for me, that's just a little gold nugget, a little information there that I've used. So, next week, we are going to be in verse 14 and 15. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, please leave them comments. If you need prayer, please put that in the comments. If there is you or a loved one that's battling addiction or needs some help, please reach out to us. If you're wanting to apply for our year-long program, please check us out on Facebook. Please like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Until next time, until we meet again, I love you. God bless.